You're listening to a Galactic Network podcast. For more, go to gncast.com.
We're the ElseNerds.
Coming up on ElseNerds number 88. What We Do in the Shadows is coming to TV as a series. Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt is leaving after 4 seasons. Free comic book day. I review Friday the 13th, the game as an app. And I talk about the WWE and my frustrations with them. That's all coming up on ElseNerds. Hello and welcome to ElseNerds, a production of Galactic Network. I'm Gregor Sprague, all by myself. Cue the song, the tears, all that stuff. No, Corey is away doing, he's got some other things that he has to get done. So instead of leaving you guys with nothing, I'm like, I'll do it. Let's do it. Come on. I can do this. I got stuff I want to talk about. But real quick, before we get into the show, for all info on this show, including subscription links and show notes, go to ElseNerds.com. And for other Galactic Network programs, go to gncasts.com. And as a warning on ElseNerds, I will probably shoot my mouth off without thinking. Actually, yeah, I will shoot my mouth off without thinking. Let's not even lie there. So I will spoil things and swear liberally. You have been warned. So I'm going to get into the news here a little bit. The first news story is one that I saw, and we've talked about it before in the stages as it's been going on, but this is official. This is actually, like, they've done this. FX has ordered a What We Do in the Shadows TV series. For those guys who do not know, the show was, or the movie that this is based off of, was released in 2014. It's a vampire mockumentary. It is set in New Zealand, and it starred Jermaine Clement and Taika Waititi. You might know that other name because of Thor Ragnarok. He's the director of that. And Jermaine Clement, he is in Legion. Taika Waititi directed the film, and they will serve as co-creators and executive producers on the TV series. Now, with this one movie, it's pretty amazing as to what they've split up and have working in there. There's, I believe, they're still working on the sequel to the film called We're Wolves, which follows the werewolves of New Zealand. And there's also the Wellington Paranormal, a spin-off TV series that will be airing in New Zealand TV very, very soon. And then there is this American adaptation. The stars will be Matt Berry, who is Douglas Renham from the IT Crowd, Kayvon Novak, Natasha Demetrio, and Harvey Guillen, and they're moving this from New Zealand, from I believe Auckland, New Zealand, to America, to New York City. And it's just going to be focusing on, much like the movie, it's going to be focusing on these vampires living in the city. And so, I mean, it's really cool. Nick Grad, FX's co-president of original programming, issued this statement here. What We Do in the Shadows only gets better with age, thanks to this brilliant adaptation for television by co-creators Jermaine Clement and Taika Waititi. Their feature version was a hilarious, fresh take on the mundanity of everyday life that even immortals must face. We are thankful to them, Paul Sims and Scott Rudin, and this amazing cast for taking us deeper into the shadows with this series. I cannot stress how much I love this movie. I mean, it is brilliantly done. Yeah, can't wait to check that out. Hopefully later in the fall. I don't have to wait a whole year. The next news story is one that I saw by doing research for another story, and this is the Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt will end after 4 seasons. Now, this, for people who do not know about this, the Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt was at first going to be a TV series on NBC. It's created by Tina Fey and Robert Carlock, who created 30 Rock. They're also the same creators of Great News over at NBC right now. And this is the show that Ellie Kemper stars in, I should say, along with Titus Burgess, Jane Krakowski, and Carol Kane. And it's one of those, honestly, I'm going to credit this as one of the Netflix original shows that got me to stay with Netflix. Because I mean, where House of Cards is great, Asterisk with all the insert all the stuff about that he did, the guy who plays Frank Underwood, I don't care, I'm not blah, but it's very intriguing. So and they're doing this in, I'd almost say AMC fashion, because they're going to break it up into 2 parts. The first, consisting of 6 episodes, will be available on May 30th, and with the remaining 7 episodes premiering at a later date. And yeah, I mean, it's one of these things that I understand why this is happening. I look at shows like the IT Crowd. And I mentioned the IT Crowd before with Matt Berry, but the reason why they canceled that show was because they didn't want it to become a zombie show. They didn't want it to where they're doing the same things over and over and over again. So it makes perfect sense that Ellie Kemper wants to do other things. Jane Krakowski wants to do other things, star in Sonic commercials. I blanked on the name of the product because we don't have Sonic where I live. But whatever it is that they're about to do, Carol Kane wants to go do other product, programs. Titus Burgess wants to go do other stuff. It makes sense to end it now. End it while it's still hot, as opposed to end it on a whimper. The next story is typically done as an ElseWords, because at the time of this recording, I'm recording this on May 3rd. Happy May the 4th be with you to everyone. But this Saturday is the first Saturday in May, which is famously for us nerds, Free Comic Book Day. And I have a few comic books here that I've picked out that I'm going to try to get myself. But there's a whole list. If you go to freecomicbookday.com/catalog, they'll have a list of the comics. And you can get these. A lot of these you can get for free, I believe, on Comixology, and I believe probably on Sunday or Monday. But you can definitely get a lot of these for free or at a really cheap price at your local comic book shop. We've talked about this before. We talk about this just about every year. This is one of the things that your comic book shop, they buy the comics. So there's certain amounts that they have to get to the gold comics. Certain levels that they got to hit to go. It's a lower goal for silver because that's how it works. And I mean, yeah, there's just a lot of great comic books in here. So the first one I'm going to talk about is one that I really want to pick up, and it's Barrier. This is an Image comic free comic book solicitation written by Brian K. Vaughan with art by Marcos Martin. This is the same creative team behind The Private Eye over at panelsyndicate.com. Now, if you've never heard of panelsyndicate.com, this is a thing that Brian K. Vaughan started up as a pay what you want service for comic books. So he started off with The Private Eye, where it was, this story that was really good, really intriguing, and you could pay as little or as much as you wanted for the comics. If you wanted to, check out the first issue and get it for free, you could get it for free. You want to pay, $500, $1,000, you could sure as hell pay $500, $1,000. However much you want to do. Cool thing is Barrier was released on panelsyndicate.com as a 5-part miniseries. And the cool part is the first issue is 53 pages. Now, I say that because, for example, I believe Action Comics number 1000 was an 80-page spectacular. So we're talking about, most comic books are about 20 to 24 pages, with ads and stuff in there. Some Image comics can get up to about 30. So we're talking about a double-sized issue that you're going to get for free, for freezies. And the cool thing about this is an unconventional drama about violence, language, and illegal immigration with a shocking sci-fi twist. So you're going to get, like I said, you're going to get the first 53 pages for free, and then you're going to get the next 4 issues being released weekly through the rest of May. I'm picking this up. I'm adding Barrier to my pull list on Saturday as well, because, I love Brian K. Vaughan's work. I love his stuff on Runaways, on Saga, on The Private Eye, and this is just another great way to support, to support creators. Next one, Marvel has 2 different offerings here, illustrating 4 different comics that they have. The first one is at the gold level, so I think a lot of people will have it. I'm not 100% sure, but it's the Avengers and Captain America first looks. Essentially, the Avengers is going to be written by Jason Aaron with art by Sarah Pichelli, and the Captain America book is going to be written by Ta-Nehisi Coates with art by Lionel Francis Yu. Now, this is really cool because you have the artist behind Miles Morales' Spider-Man run, for I believe all of it, if not a lot of it, with Brian Michael Bendis coming to do the Avengers and doing amazing work there. And also, Jason Aaron been doing Thor for a good long time, but he's been doing some great comic books there. And they're teaming up in here, and you flip it over. Ta-Nehisi Coates has been killing it with Black Panther, so much so that for a book that really came out a year before the movie, like not long before the movie got started filming, and had such an influence on that movie. This is great. These are going to be great. The other one is Spider-Man and Guardians of the Galaxy. Both of these will have new creative teams, with Nick Spencer and Cliff Rathburn joining on as writer and artist respectively. And Nick Spencer is taking over from Dan Slott. He's got big shoes to fill with this. When this comes out, this will either be number 801, or they will do it like an 800.1 or something like that. And then you get the Guardians of the Galaxy issue in there as well, which will be really cool. Next one is Doctor Who, the Free Comic Book Day Doctor Who. This is a 4-part extravaganza here. You have a story with the 10th Doctor, with the stories that they've been setting up. Doctor Who, the comic book, does something really interesting here. They break them up into years. So they've done, like, the 10th and 11th have been done fairly regularly. They broke them up in like TV seasons and stuff. And it's really cool, really fun how they do it. I'm not gonna lie to you, I had fallen out with Doctor Who, but I'm definitely looking at this comic book as well. But you're getting a story with the 10th Doctor, a story with the 7th, a classic story, I would say, with the 7th Doctor and with Ace, a story with the 11th. The 11th Doctor follows his Time Lord taste buds into an all-night diner for madcap meals and unorthodox diplomacy. Plus, with this, you're going to get the complete reader's guide to the Doctor Who comics collection. So it's going to tell you, what to read and all that stuff. And the first appearance in Titan Comics by the 13th Doctor, written and drawn by her new creative team. So that's where I've said, this is really good. If you're wanting to see the tone of what you can expect with the new Doctor, this is going to be your first shot, and it's free. There's a show title. It's free. The next one from Boom Studios, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers special. This is tying in with their series that they got going on right now called Shattered Grid. It's a crossover between Mighty Morphin Power Rangers from Boom Studios and Saban's Go-Go Power Rangers comic series, where you have this Power Ranger from this Tommy, who plays the Green Power Ranger and the White Power Ranger, from an alternate dimension where he is evil. He is known as Lord Drakon. And you're going from there. I've been seeing this a lot. I haven't, so I can't speak too much to if this is a great jumping on point or if this is bonus stuff. I want to say, since it is, again, Free Comic Book Day, that it's probably going to be a jumping on point for the series. The next one is Ghost in the Shell Global Neural Network. This is coming to us from Kodansha Comics. This is the setup for an anthology series. This is featuring great writers: Alex DeCampi, Becky Cloonan, Brandon Fletcher, Max Gladstone, David Lopez, LRNZ, Koi Pham, Genevieve Valentine, and so many more people. And this first issue, you are following Major Kusanagi as she, reunites with people who shouldn't be there. They should be dead. It sounds really cool. This is one that I'm gonna be looking out for. If you like the cartoon, you like the movie, Ghost in the Shell, you're a Ghost in the Shell fan, check this out. And the final one is Street Angel's Dog. This is written by Jim Rugg and Brian Maruca with art by Jim Rugg. Basically, it was the premise that got me. You're following Jessie Street Angel Sanchez and her new dog, Pal, as they go on a rampage of fun. They play dress up, skateboard, fight ninjas, skateboard, fight monsters, race robot cars to the death, fight bullies, and teach each other the value of family. It's Jessie's 4th best day ever. Unfortunately, even 4th best days must come to an end. Don't worry, the dog lives. I love that part. Don't worry, the dog lives. Like, we've seen enough shit here. We need to know that nothing's going to go bad. But yeah, that's Free Comic Book Day. There's plenty more comics. I barely scratched the surface. So like I said, freecomicbookday.com/catalog will get you the list of comics. And also you can go from there. You can find if your local comic book shop is participating. But that'll do it for the news. And we will be right back. And we are back. And the reason why I'm getting on my phone is not because I am bored with what I am talking about. It is to show you the game that I found that I'm in love with. And as a lot of you guys know from watching this and from Podcast of Terror, I am a horror movie newbie. It's not that I don't like horror movies. It's just that, they're not my cup of tea, so to speak. But there is a new game called Friday the 13th. For the audio listeners, I am showing it on my phone right now. And oh, hey, there's my mom talking to me. Jason dear, swipe the screen to slide. Blah, 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 kill the counselor. Basically, it's a puzzle game. So I'm going to show you the top view here, as you can sort of see it. But basically, you slide around. You have, a grid that you have to move. Jason always moves as far as he can in a straight line, whether that be good or bad. It pays off. There are obstacles that that get put into the way of you, whether it be water or even holes have been appeared up here. The cool part is the sound. I mean, the music, the sound effects. Like you come in with the for every level, for every time you come in. That's what it does. There's so many levels. The only thing I don't like is there's not a premium tier, I will say, because a lot of the levels you unlock with kills. So the more kills you do, the more weapons you get, but then also the more levels you unlock, like Future Shock, Wasteland, the Return to Crystal Lake, which is unlocked with an in-app purchase, the Ripper, which is London themed, unlocked with in-app purchase. There's all these other things, and then you can also unlock other Jason characters. So right now I've only unlocked the first two. So there's Crystal Lake Memories, which is sort of like a tutorial, and then Lockdown, which is Orange is the New Dead Lockdown, where you could go to select the levels. And that's sort of the other problem I have, is that with the levels, like with the level select, if you tap it, sometimes it'll fake and do the swipe, because it's just swipe to go back and forth between the levels. Has so much replayability with it, because of the fact that, I mean, it's a simple puzzler. You're sitting there. They introduce, in some levels, a level timer counter sort of deal, and they might actually do where it's a time limit, but for the most part, you're just swiping. You can actually sit there and think and go, okay, here, 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 and there are obvious ways of getting it done quick, but there's always a couple different ways of doing it. So far, they've only done it once to me so far, but where you have turns. So after you have 6 turns to kill the inmate, and then in here they introduce the guards as optional kills. But basically it's the don't get caught, way that they end it. And then once you kill the people, like you kill the inmates, then the final person comes in, and that's how you end the level, with a nice little slider bar here that you have to time it right to get the kill. You still pass, but you unlock new weapons by what's called bloodlust. So for each of the kills, you get more blood, and once you fill up the Jason mask, you tap on a crate and you get a new weapon. So far, I've gotten one repeat, which sort of sucked, but the other cool part is there is a PG-13 version and a rated R version. I'm playing on the rated R version. It doesn't seem that bad myself. It just seems like really funny because you're watching, because they're all cutely animated too. I mean, you're watching as they're getting stabbed or and stuff, or they're whatever it is, and it looks so adorable. So I might turn it to the PG setting just to see what it shows me. Like if it's they get stabbed and out comes rainbows or whatever. I don't know, but I enjoyed it. I found it on a whim, and I'm just like, all right, download, play. Ooh, this is fun. And yeah, so that's the app. With all that being said, I will take a break and I will discuss the ElseWords. And we are back, and it is time for the ElseWords. This is the big portion of the show where I'm going to discuss something with people out there, not typical for the main audience because this is wrestling focused, but it's sort of due because this week we have the first air quotes co-branded pay-per-view backlash for the WWE. We had last Friday the pay-per-view from over in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, called The Greatest Royal Rumble, where they aired it at noon Eastern time, 9 a.m. Pacific for us here in America, and where we saw the 50-man Royal Rumble and every title on the line, with only one quote unquote changing hands, and that was because the title was vacant. The big thing is more on the behind the scenes stuff, because one of the guys that is in the WWE right now is the champion, is Brock Lesnar. Now, I have nothing wrong with Brock Lesnar personally, mainly because the dude is big and he could kill me if he wanted to. But I have to question WWE's motivations. He is right now the Universal Champion, basically the champion, the main guy on Raw. He's a part-time wrestler. There's reports that have come out that said that his new contract that he signed the Monday before WrestleMania, where it was rumored for the whole year that he was going to drop the title on another wrestler that goes by Roman Reigns. He's actually The Rock's cousin. That's also because The Rock, there's a big Samoan dynasty, and The Rock is just one of the cogs in that dynasty. But anyways, so the rumor was that Roman Reigns is gonna drop the title or pick up the title at WrestleMania. He's gonna win it at WrestleMania, and it sort of goes with the fact that it sort of goes with things because there's rumors coming out and reports coming out that Brock wants to go back to the UFC, which, hey, fine, great, you were good there, but then they signed this new deal. This is where I could bring you guys back because the deal's interesting. He is what's considered a part-time wrestler. He only appears in limited capacity. Now his deal is even more part-time because the WWE could be losing money. Brock Lesnar, for every appearance he makes, whether that be on Raw, on I believe even a house show, so not televised for not for TV, just for the local crowd to come out. They'll probably get about 2,000 people, which he hasn't done one of those in 3-4 years, I think, or a pay-per-view. He makes $500,000. That is American. That is not euros. That is not the currency that Growly Bear uses. That is not pounds. That is $500,000 American. Now, here's the problem. He's the champ. If this was the territories, this is the guy you're trying to build your company on. This is the guy, that you're paying him because you want him around, doing all these bookings and stuff. Like Bruno Sammartino, God rest his soul, he passed away last, a couple weeks ago. He held the title over the course of two title reigns. He held it for 11 years. This is back in the 50s and 60s, maybe 60s and 70s, where, you could do this because it was still local. But you now have this global phenom that is the WWE, where they're putting a lot of their stuff behind the WWE network. And you have your main title because you still consider, you're Vince McMahon, you still consider Raw your A show. And it is being held by someone who shows up. And I think all of last year, from the time he won the title at WrestleMania against Goldberg, so WrestleMania 33 to today, has wrestled all of, I think, 10 matches. To put it in perspective, the average WWE superstar wrestles 300 days out of the year, with house shows, with all that, with, TV tapings, pay-per-views. They're on the road for about 300 days. And that is my problem. Now, Growley's asking, is wrestling dying, becoming a niche thing? It's always been a niche thing. As Beats points out, it is more mainstream than ever. In a lot of parts it is, because of the fact that, WWE is the big powerhouse still. They have the, the market share for the whole world. So much so that the number 2 promotion, I would call it number 2 with, New Japan. A lot of people slip and call it the Indies. That's not the Indies. That is huge. That, I think, is probably the one company that is bigger in Japan than the WWE. And it is because it is geared for them. And I could be wrong. WWE could still be bigger in Japan, but I mean, hey, it is huge. It is expanding to America. But I don't think wrestling is dying in a sense. I think wrestling is changing, and I think the territories are dying. The territories have been dead for a long time here in America. Since the Monday Night Wars in the 90s with WCW and WWE and ECW as the third, alternative programming. But you look at it now, Triple H recently during WrestleMania, held a press conference saying that he wants to expand NXT to a locally, globally thing. So basically redoing the territories where it's all NXT. So you would have a, NXT Europe, NXT either China or Asia, NXT Australia, NXT South America, all these different areas, thus killing the indies. Promotions like over in the UK, Defiant Wrestling, or ICW in Ireland, Rev Pro Wrestling, really taking a bite out of them. Progress is another one that's over in the UK. To answer your question, I don't think wrestling is dying. It's the niche has grown because wrestling has grown. When I was younger in the late 90s, early 2000s, it was all the hardcore matches. It was all, like, let's do blood and gore, and ECW was definitely a big influence on that. And nowadays they realize, okay, well, we can't do that because we want to appeal to kids. Well, parents aren't going to let their kids watch as, one guy beats another guy up so much that, oh my gosh, the blood just flowing down his face to where his face is redder than my shirt or the walls in my room. Beat brings up another interesting point. Guess UFC is part of the problem for them. Yes and no, in my eyes, because UFC, where UFC is, big competitor, and WWE might not want to admit it, but they are a competitor. The big difference is UFC is a lot like boxing, where you don't have the guys fighting all the time. You don't see Conor McGregor fighting every week. You see him fight, maybe 6 times at the most in a year. And that's if it's, really hectic schedule and all that. With the UFC, it's more of their roster is bigger. They have, way bigger names, and they have weight divisions. And that's the point. They wouldn't last as long. That's the big thing. because, you know, people will go, well, wrestling's fake. It's not fake. It's scripted. The results are planned out. Garley goes, so going for a younger audience is not bringing in enough money. No, it's bringing in the money. My problem is not with the money. My problem is the fact that the WWE is, you know, you look at all their championships. They have, because right now they have a brand split. They have wrestlers that appear exclusively on Raw, wrestlers that appear exclusively on SmackDown, and with the Raw championship, and they have a tier. You know, you have the main title, like the title behind me right there. That's the WWE championship. That is the big title for SmackDown. Again, for the audio listeners, I'm pointing to the backdrop in my room, and that is the big gold for the WWE or for SmackDown. The one below it is the United States title. So typically, you know, what's called the mid card, or, you know, about middle of the show, that's where that belt is held, you know, is fought for and stuff like that. Usually up and comers, you know, are in there. You know, people that WWE is like, we can't really make, you know, buttloads of money off of them, but we can make something off of them. Then there's the women's and the tag team titles. Those are separate because those are different types of wrestling. Obviously one being the women's wrestling, which is, you know, big, you know, that's grown a lot since the days of when I was a kid, where it was all puppies and bra and panties matches. And it's like, no, these women can kick a lot of the men's asses. So let's put them in matches that are longer than, you know, 5 minutes. And we're not, every time they're going for a pin, camera right up their dress. Kevin Dunn, fuck you. Sorry. Sidetrack. That's SmackDown. On Raw, you have that same structure. It's the Universal title, the IC title, and then their women's and tag team titles. My big problem with that is, like, you look at this past week of programming. WWE has, you know, I'm gonna go back to the Greatest Royal Rumble. They botched that call. They fucked that call up. So in there, they have a cage match between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. The end, Roman Reigns spears Brock Lesnar through the cage. Brock's back lands first, but they stated before in the rules, your feet have to touch. Roman Reigns' feet touch the floor before Brock Lesnar's. They award the match to Brock. The ref, you know, gives his excuse as to what happened. The easy solution for that is to change the match at the next pay-per-view to, you know, another stipulation match between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, because, you know, stripping Brock of the belts doesn't win over anyone. So you do one more match and, you know, lose it. Now, I wonder if part of me thinks the ending was changed, because at first when Roman didn't win at WrestleMania, I'm like, okay, you know, he's going to do it at the next, you know, at the Greatest Royal Rumble or whatever. And now I'm like, okay, WWE, you know, Vince McMahon, you know, whoever, all the higher ups that be over there at Creative. If your problem is the fact that the fans are booing Roman Reigns, you have other people that you can put in there. And I'm going to give one right now. The guy who never lost the title to begin with, the guy you put that belt on first, Finn Balor. Now, for the audio listeners, look up Finn Balor, look up Brock Lesnar, look at their stats. Finn Balor is like 5'10", 220 pounds maybe. Brock Lesnar is 6'8", or no, 6'4", 6'5", and like 350 jacked. No, not even 350, like 300 pounds jacked. Like muscle on top of muscle. There's a reason why he got suspended from the UFC. Steroids. Sorry, did you hear something? I thought I heard someone say steroids. You have with that a built-in storyline. Couple built-in storylines. There is the David and Goliath angle, you know, with how you had it before with Eddie Guerrero. Eddie Guerrero won the WWE title from Brock Lesnar, and Eddie Guerrero had a body style more to Finn Balor. The other part is the one I mentioned before. Finn Balor had never lost the title. Finn Balor had to give it up because when he won the title, he tore his shoulder. So much so where you go back and watch that match, you can watch the man relocate his shoulder. he dislocated his shoulder and a move gone wrong like this, and you watch him just go, bam, and it's one of those. They played it in a package that they made, that they call WWE 24, where it's sort of like the ESPN E60s that they do, or the 30 for 30s, and they showed him put it back in. I'm like, oh my gosh! And then he went on to win the match. He knew his shoulder was fucked, but he's like, I'm gonna win the match. And so the next night he drops the title, he rehabs and all this stuff, and he has not, and this was 2 years ago. This was 2-3 years ago, and he has not gotten a title shot since. He's been looked to the back. Now the first year I'm like, okay, this makes sense. The WWE has dealt with injury prone wrestlers before. We're going to take it easy on him, to where he doesn't re-injure or cause new injuries, to where then we have a guy who has spent more time on the main roster sitting in the sidelines than being, out on the road making us money. He has put on phenomenal matches. He had, for me, one of the matches of the night for WrestleMania. And yet he still hasn't had his shot yet. You have a lot of story angles, yet you don't bite the bullet. I don't know what WWE's plans are. I am very intrigued to know what their plans are, because part of me feels like they are keeping, and this is where I get even more behind the scenes here. Part of me feels like they're trying to keep Brock Lesnar as WWE champion for a little while longer to beat CM Punk's record. CM Punk is the longest reigning in the modern era WWE champion, because we will never see Bruno Sammartino's first run of, I believe, 7 years ever duplicated. The professional wrestling audience does not have that attention span. So you have, back in 2010, CM Punk held the title for, I believe, 434 days. So just over a year, almost a year and a half. And I feel like that's what they're going to do. They're going to do this to where they can put it, because CM Punk left the company on very bad terms because he was frustrated with them and a lot of their policies. And it's understandable. I'm not naysaying him. I love CM Punk. He's a great wrestler. If I met the guy, I probably would say he's a great guy. But, Vince McMahon is probably still butthurt about the whole thing and has gone, we're going to keep, we're going to, take you, knock your record down a little bit to fix that. That's going to do it for the show. I mean, I got nothing else to say. And it's hard doing a show by yourself. But you can find out all this by following us on Twitter. We are at ElseNerds, or the network at Galactic Netcasts. Go to facebook.com/Galactic Netcasts. You can follow me on Twitter at that Gregor. You can follow Beatmaster at Beatmaster80. Corey, you can find his stuff at stfucast.com, don'taskcomics.com. Also, there is my Twitch page, which I will try to get back into. I might do something after Saturday, after Free Comic Day. So it's my next day off. But that is twitch.tv/thatgregor. And also, I want your opinions here. What do you guys think about the stuff I've talked about, about the WWE with, their Brock Lesnar problem, or the news stories before with What We Do in the Shadows, the Free Comic Book Day stuff, the Friday the 13th app. Have you played the Friday the 13th app? Contact us by the Twitter stuff, the Facebook stuff, like I mentioned before. But you can also go to mail@elsenerds.com and send us an email that way, or leave us a voicemail at 805-328-3966. And the final thing to be said is this has been a Don't Tell Glenn production. We will see you next week, or else.
more on this Galactic Network podcast, go to gncast.com. That's GNCASTS.com.